So the next lecture is about the visual pathway. The visual message from the world is carried by two optic nerves. So before that, we need to know about the binocular vision, monocular vision. So binocular vision, the vision in which both the eyes are used together so that a portion of the external world is seen. Monocular, the vision in which with each eye is used separately. Now, what do you mean by temporal and the nasal field? The light rays from the different half of each visual field, as seen in this diagram. There is the left vision, that is left half, and then we have the right half. Okay, so the light rays from the different half of each visual field. Each visual field matlab agar ek left visual field and then we have a right visual field, it do not fall on the same half of the retina. That is light rays from the temporal part. So we have a temporal part and we have a nasal part. So the temporal part is, now whatever you're trying to do is just focus on your nose right now. So you're trying to focus on your nose with the help of your nasal part of the retina, not by the temporal part of the retina. Okay, with the help of temporal I can see the peripheral parts of the external scene. So the peripheral vision is because of the temporal part of the retina which is present. So we have a nasal field and we have a temporal field. So the light rays from the temporal part of retina, the temporal part of the visual field, it fall on the nasal half of the retina of that eye. So as you can see over here, we have two different diagrams. Okay? Now this tree, if I'm able to see only from, if I'm seeing only from my left eye, that's a monocular vision, and if I am using both the, then that's a binocular vision. So the left eye and the right eye. So it has, now as you can see, this red line is showing the nasal field of the retina, and this blue line is showing the temporal part of the retina. So we have a temporal part of the retina, and then we have, this is the temporal part of both the eyes, of the left eye and of the right eye, and then we have a nasal part. This is the nasal part of the retina. So try to see that if I am focusing from so the temporal part is able to see the objects which is present on the left vision, just present on the left half of the visual field, and the right eye it's able to see. So with the combination, the right eye is seeing the right part of the visual field. With the combination of both of them, we have a binocular vision. So the visual field of each eye is divided into two unequal parts, outer temporal or the inner, and the nasal. The temporal part extends up to 100 degrees, but the nasal part extends only up to 60 degrees because it is restricted by the nose. So the visual pathway, the optic pathway, is a nervous pathway that transmits impulses from the retina to the visual center in the cerebral cortex. Now in binocular vision, the light rays from the temporal half of visual field fall upon the nasal part, and the rays from the nasal half of the visual field fall upon the temporal part of the retina. So we have the primary neurons, then we have secondary neurons, and we have third order neurons. So the primary neurons are the first order neurons, so they are bipolar cells, as we have already talked about what are bipolar cells in the retina. Now they synapse with the dendrites of the ganglionic cells. So here we can see the ganglion cells, okay, and these are the bipolar cells. The green ones are the bipolar cells. And these are the ganglion cells. So the axons from the bipolar cells synapse with the dendrites of the ganglionic cells. Then the ganglionic cells ka axon jo hai, they form the optic nerve, and now this optic nerve will leave the eye and terminate in lateral geniculate body. So this ganglion cell, then the bipolar cell, and then here we have our photoreceptors, the rods and the cones. And from here, what is through this to the last layer, the optic nerve leaves the eye and terminates in little geniculate body, and the third order neurons are in the LG body. The fibers arising from here reaches the visual cortex, and hence a person can able the visual processing is present. It is done in the visual cortex. So very clear diagram, direction of light. This diagram has already shown you that the ganglion cell synapse with the bipolar cells, and this bipolar cell, it goes up to the photoreceptors and the rods and the cones, and then from here the optic nerve leaves. Now in this diagram I can tell you what do you mean by the temporal part and the nasal part more clearly. So this is the left eye and this is the right eye. This is the left eye and this is the right eye. Left eye, the temporal part, the blue, the temporal, and the red is the nasal. So if you are able to see, the red part is focused on the temporal part of the left eye. Okay. See. ये ऐसा connection बना रहा है. Okay. Now try to understand if this is your eye, it is divided into two parts. ये वाला part हो गया आपका nasal क्योंकि ये close to the nose है. ये हो गया आपका temporal part. Okay. Now this nasal part of the retina is able to see the temporal field of your left visual field, and this temporal part of retina will receive the nasal field of your left visual field. So it happens like this. It comes like a cross. Okay, not on the same. ऐसा नहीं है कि nasal field to the nasal आपके part of retina पे focus होएगी. Nasal goes to the temporal and the temporal goes to the nasal. So from here the optic nerve leave. Okay, so आपको ये दिख रही है optic nerve, the red and the blue. The optic nerve from the leaves from the left eye and from the right eye. Now fibers of the optic nerve originating in the temporal half of the retina, they continue. See, red is continuing in the same direction as you are able to see. Try to see, the red is continuing. If I talk about the left eye, okay. अगर हम राइट आई की बात करेंगे तो ब्लू है टेम्पोरल के फाइबर्स. सो दिस इज कंटिन्यूइंग इनटू द सेम साइड पे कंटिन्यू हो रहा है. ठीक है, क्रिस क्रॉस नहीं हो रहा है. यहाँ पे जो रेड है, द रेड पोर्शन okay, so the fibers of the optic nerve originating in the temporal half of retina, it continues in the optic tract of the same side, but those are originating in the nasal side, they cross over to the contralateral optic tract. तो यहाँ पे it cross हो गया. Both the nasal fibers of both the eyes, they crosses to the contralateral side. The result is information from the right visual field travels left optic tract, and information from the left visual field travels the right optic tract. Okay, because of the crisscrossing happening in the nasal fibers. Because of the crisscrossing happening in the nasal fibers, and this crossing को बोलते हैं optic chiasma or optic chiasm. Now once it crosses the optic chiasm, उसको बोलते हैं optic tract. So यहाँ पे, as you can see, the nasal fiber of the right eye goes to the left portion or the left part of the eye. Okay, it continues as a left optic tract, and then it goes up to the lateral geniculate body. Now lateral geniculate body is present in thalamus. Now from here, lateral geniculate body, the optic tract which originated in the contralateral nasal retina, it terminates in the layers 1, 4, 6 of the lateral geniculate nucleus. Wait, I'll show you. see, we have layers in the lateral geniculate layer. We have 6 layers. So the optic tract which originated in the contralateral nasal retina, it terminates in layer 1. It terminates in layer 1, 4, 6 of the LGN of the lateral geniculate nucleus, and the fibers in the ipsilateral temporal retina. जो ipsilateral में है, जो same side में है, it will terminate in layers 2, 4, 5, and those the contralateral ones, they will terminate in 1, 4, 6. So as you can see, some ipsilateral fibers are also going here and some contralateral fibers are also going here. So the ipsilateral are terminating onto the 2 they're terminating on the 2, 3 and 5. Okay. They're terminating on 2, 3 and 5, and the contralateral ones, they're terminating on the layer of 1, 4 and 6. I hope now it's now another diagram which is showing is the crossed fibers from the contralateral eye. जो contralateral eye है, it terminates in layer 1, 4, 6. और जो ipsilateral है, that is the temporal portion of both the eyes, it will terminate in the layer 2, 3 and the 5 of the lateral geniculate body. Now this lateral geniculate body, it further subdivides into some optic radiation, and this optic radiation finally terminates in the visual cortex. The Brodmann area is area number 17. The visual cortex, where the complete visual processing is done. So कोई भी object in its left visual field will convey its presence via right optic tract by means of the fiber, some of which are ipsilateral and half of them are contralateral. LGN, lateral geniculate body, it fans out to optic radiation which terminate in visual cortex, the primary visual cortex. Now, the course of the pathway, first is the optic nerve, then is the optic chiasm, then there is this optic tract. After the crossing over, then it's called as optic tract. Then we have lateral geniculate body which fans on into optic radiation, and hence final is the visual cortex. So this is an flow chart which is showing how the visual receptors in retina go to the first order, the bipolar cells, then to ganglionic cells, then to optic nerve, chiasma tract, LGN body, and then finally the visual cortex. The optic nerve leads the eye to the optic disc. The fibers from the temporal part of the retina are in lateral part of the nerve and carry the impulses from the fibers from the temporal part of the retina, they carry the impulses from the nasal half of the visual field. Same eye का visual field, मतलब अगर left eye का visual field तो left हुआ, तो उसका nasal half जो है वो temporal part of retina will carry करेगी. The fibers from the nasal part of retina are in the medial part of the nerve and will carry the impulses from the temporal half of the visual field of the same eye. Now the medial fibers of each optic nerve will cross the midline. Medial fiber मतलब जो nasal fibers हो गए, and they will cross, it will join, contralateral को join करेंगे, it will join the uncrossed lateral fibers of the opposite side. Okay. The LGN body, majority of the fibers of the optic tract terminate in the lateral geniculate body, which forms a subcortical center for the visual sensation. Now, some of the fibers do not synapse in the lateral geniculate body. It goes up to the superior colliculus, which is the concerned reflex movements of the eyeballs in the head, pretectal nucleus, which is concerned with light reflexes, and the supraoptic nucleus of the hypothalamus, which is generally concerned with the retinal control of the pituitary in the animals and not so much helpful in the humans. The visual cortex is known as the area number 17, which is concerned with the perception of the visual impulse. The secondary visual area or the visual association area is concerned with the interpretation of the visual impulse. So first is the primary, which is the perception. पहले वो perceive करेगा. Then there's interpretation in the area number 18, and then the occipital eye field area number 19, which is concerned with the movement of the eye. And the primary visual cortex is located in the middle surface of the occipital lobe.